Many of you have been asking for an office tour for quite some time, and I'm long overdue for it, so welcome to a very special episode that features not just me, but the light of my life, my cat Ellie, who is making this video already infinitely cooler by deciding to jump up here on my chair while I'm recording this. So, hi everyone, I know you've been asking for a while, so I thought it's finally time for me to take you sort of behind the scenes and show you my office, my recording space, and how I make everything that I make. Ellie, where do you want to go right now? This is cool. I feel like a supervillain making like a ransom video for like a Bond movie, which is... Hi, baby. Hey. Yeah, you can be in the video. Hi, cutie. Also, full disclosure, I actually tried recording this whole thing yesterday, and I tried to make it like a vlog where I was actually physically holding the camera and walking around my office, and very, very quickly that became extremely stressful because the cameras I own are not built for vlogging, so they're heavy and they don't have autofocus, and trying to make that work while also trying to keep everything in focus while also trying to do running commentary and all that ended up being kind of a nightmare. So I ended up just thinking like, okay, I'm gonna re-record this at my desk, and then I will shoot footage of all the cool stuff in my office, and I'll just intercut that into the video.
Backstory stuff.
So go ahead and get yourself cozy, just like me and Ellie are right here, and settle in for a very fun, very relaxing, slightly ASMR walkthrough of my office/studio. So this is my office/recording studio. As you can see, it is full to the brim with stuff because all of my hyperfixations eventually end up here. Let's start out talking about the decor, and then I figure we can get to the technical stuff towards the end. I've got my book selection here, which I have organized by color, which feels a bit wrong because I used to work at a library, and all my training tells me to sort these books differently. But since I just finished making my full face cam setup for my desk, I thought, you know what? This will be a little bit more of a pleasing background behind me for future videos. I also have my collection of Harper's Bazaar and Vogue, which I've been subscribed to for many years at this point, though at the moment I don't usually have time to read each issue cover to cover like I'd like to. Towards the top of my bookshelf, I have this lovely little audio by Dominic placard, which was a gift from my partner when the channel started getting some attention, and so it sits in this place of honor right here by my fun little twinkly lights. Up here I have my 4K Blu-ray collection. I'm a big fan of physical media, so I love having actual discs on hand, especially since the quality is so much higher than what streaming services offer, and you get things like commentaries and behind the scenes to be able to get a better insight into so many of these films that really inspired me and still fascinate me to this day. And they also look good framing either side of my limited edition IMAX Oppenheimer film strip. I got this a while back when IMAX had a promotion where if you bought any of their merch, they would include one of these with your order, so I bought some random overpriced beanie they had just to get this, and honestly it was worth the price because it sits here as like the centerpiece of my collection. Now, shoved up on top of my bookshelf is a collection of Descent Journeys in the Dark materials. This is a role-playing tabletop game that is largely out of print at this point, but over the last several years, I've been cobbling together a nearly complete collection of all the different editions and campaigns that exist for the game. This collection includes a lot of really cool stuff. There's a lot of really awesome tile pieces that can be made into like an endless amount of variations for different types of maps and environments for different scenarios you might play. It comes with a huge collection of miniatures that are really fun and a little different than what you would see from D&D, because this is set in its own world with its own types of creatures that are distinct from Dungeons & Dragons as a tabletop gaming kind of environment. So anyway, if anyone is interested in seeing that more closely, let me know. I could always do a little nerdy video walking you through my Descent collection, should anyone have an interest in that. I've also got my adorable little Shadowheart plushie that's chilling in this really fun Snorlax mug, and the mug was actually a personal gift that was sent to me through my fan mail P.O. box. So if you've ever wondered if the gifts you send to me actually like find a place in my office, they do. They all do. I am so excited and grateful anytime one of you takes the time, effort, and finances to get me a gift. So I always try to make sure it has a place of honor and is getting appreciated the way it deserves. And also, if you want to send me a gift, I did just recently reopen my P.O. box for fan mail, and I did it correctly this time. I actually opened it as a business P.O. box under my Audio by Dominic, like brand name. So the nice thing about that is it means there shouldn't be any issues of you sending things to me, because you can just label it as being sent to Audio by Dominic and it'll go to my official, P.O. box there. I'll put the address both in the description and in the video here, just so you know that if you ever want to send a letter or something that you made, like if there's any art or anything that you made and wanted to actually send to me personally, that is an option, and I do check it, fairly regularly. So just so you know, that's available for anyone who might be kind of interested. And in the future, if I get enough of it, I could even do a fan mail unboxing video, which could be its own kind of fun project. Especially now that I have a camera set up here at my desk, I can make personalized, interactive content much more easily than I could before. So just saying, that's an option in the future if people are interested. Next up is my electric drum kit, and to be painfully honest, I don't really use it much anymore. I started out learning on a real drum kit, and that's when I played for well over 10 years. So switching to an electric kit just feels wrong. It's not bad. It's just, there's a feel to it that never quite is as natural as a drum set. Like the size of the pads is different. The layout never quite feels correct. The bounce back when I'm hitting it with the sticks never quite is the same. And it's okay. It's good enough that I can practice and get a feel for it, but I've still never quite fallen in love with it the way I did playing with a real kit and tuning it up and really getting to feel like it's my own. Versus, there's only so many things you can do with an electronic drum kit to kind of make it personalized to your own taste. So, fingers crossed when I move to somewhere else, I'll have like my whole own section to be able to just have like a full drum kit. And honestly, ideally, I would love to be able to live in a place where I could have like a dedicated creative space, music room, photo studio. You know what I mean? Just like, I don't know if it would be like a garage, like a warehouse in my backyard, or just a large room or whatever, but just a space that could be dedicated to that. I could have my photo equipment in there, so photo shoots were just ready to go when I felt like it. If I wanted to bring in friends or models or people, who wanted to create something, that would just be dedicated to that, and also for music and wanting to do anything with that. So hopefully in the future, I'm at a place, physically where there's enough room to be able to make that happen and accommodate all of the things I want to be doing. So that's the thing about being someone who kind of is interested in a ton of different categories of creativity. It takes up a lot of space, and it takes up a lot of room and effort, and it's very hard to keep everything set up all at once when they each need their own kind of physical room to make the most of them. So anyway, hopefully in the future, that'll be a thing. Now over here above the drum set is a new addition to my office that my mom got me for my birthday. It is a scratch-off poster with the top 100 IMDb movies. So underneath every gold cover is a full color design underneath it that you scratch away after you've seen that film. I've actually been waiting to start on that because it showed up in like a rolled tube. So because of that, I wanted to make sure it was like all pressed flat so I could put it out on my desk and not worry about like bending it or getting creases in it while I was scratching things off. So I also thought maybe since I haven't started it yet, that I could even do maybe a video about it. I could go through all the ones I've seen in that top 100 and scratch them off, show you what the design is, and then, I don't know, maybe I could like kind of give you like a quick and dirty my review of all the films I've seen on that list, kind of rapid fire. So I don't know, might be a fun video. So if you want to see that, let me know. I think you guys might enjoy that. And if not, just tell me to go fuck myself. I've also got these paper flowers over here, which I got from Etsy, and they are made from the pages of Pride and Prejudice, which on one side I feel conflicted because a Pride and Prejudice book had to be sacrificed to make it exist. But I'm also kind of assuming that it was like, they take like an old rundown copy of it and use the pages from it, not like a brand new one from Barnes & Noble. But either way, I think it's pretty cool. And when I first got it, I was kind of like, how do I know these are actually Pride and Prejudice pages? Like technically they could be from anything and I wouldn't be able to tell because they're all folded up. But if you look really closely right here, you can actually see that on the flower, it actually says Mr. Darcy's name at the top. So you can actually tell if you look closely enough which pages it's built from, and they are in fact from Pride and Prejudice. Now in similar floral fashion, there's my little weekly planner over here, which I like because it's not specific to a certain year or a certain month. Because in the past, I would buy a monthly planner and then I would get depressed and I wouldn't use it for a bit. And then when I wanted to use it again, it would be too late because it was specific to those exact months and that year, so it wasn't valid anymore. Versus this is just a general weekly kind of one, so I can use it for any week coming up whenever I'm in the mood to keep things more organized, which I appreciate. Ellie! Oh my gosh, you're making too much noise. Come here. There you are. Good girl. Come on. You can come relax. Come. I also have this ticket box where I collect stubs from any movies or entertainment I see. It's empty right now because at the beginning of each year, I take all the tickets out and I will put them in like a proper folder with sleeves that are like the acid-free plastic. That way it'll actually preserve them for the future. That way then I think it'll be a cool kind of ongoing record of like what films I saw, how often I was going to see movies or shows, plays, anything like that. Anything that's like entertainment of any kind, I try to get a physical ticket for it if I can. That way I can document the experience, which I really miss that a lot of things nowadays don't use physical tickets anymore. And that's such a cool way to commemorate things you've done in life. Like no one's going to look through and be like, Look, grandson, in my Apple Wallet, I went to this festival years ago. No one's going to do that. We want physical tickets again. We want physical tickets. We want lanyards with designs on them. Stuff you can put in a box and show to people later in life. Like, everyone wants that. Physical media. The people long for physical media, all right? Now, on the other side of my desk, I've got two very special items on the wall. First up is this beautiful Pride and Prejudice art that my partner got for me. And if you know me, you know I adore Pride and Prejudice. And this art it captures the feel of that movie so perfectly, the kind of like soft, lush beauty of it. So my partner saw this and thought I would love it, and she is absolutely right about that. Now, over here is my pin collection. And while I'm not someone that generally likes spending much time collecting items, because I think most things that you can collect kind of end up just sitting on a shelf or sitting in a box somewhere and collecting dust. But I like pins because they don't take up much of a physical footprint in my office, but it's a fun thing to collect, and they all can, kind of represent things that I enjoy or just things that I found funny, or some of them are from special events and things that I've gone to, so they have kind of a story attached to them. It's a cool way to be able to have a piece of different things that I really like and am a big fan of without having to worry about needing a massive amount of space to collect a bunch of memorabilia, which I'm generally not a fan of in general anyway. I also have a few coffee table books over here that don't fit on my shelf. The first one being this Harry Potter making of book, which is a full color compendium of all the behind the scenes for the whole series. And if you're into filmmaking, this is an invaluable resource. Books like this that really cover every aspect of film production are just really, really exciting, and it's a really good way to be able to get an internal kind of view on how production design works, why certain creative choices were made the way they were. I think it's really, really fascinating to see filmmaking from films that were so well made and the people behind them, how they came to the decisions that made it so good. So it's a great book. Really would recommend if you're into filmmaking behind the scenes at all. It's pretty fascinating. I also have this one called a Disney Sketchbook, which is a collection of original concept sketches collected and printed together from various Disney artists, and it's just beautiful. And it's really neat to be able to see the different iterations of these characters that have become so iconic, especially from a lot of like the Disney Renaissance era that were like kind of universally known by especially 90s kids and up, it was just a given that these were the cartoon characters. So looking through and seeing how their designs originated and how many different versions they had to go through to finally settle on the final product, I think is really cool. It's cool seeing the thought process behind a brilliant artist, figuring out what's missing from a previous design and getting to kind of glimpse that in its rough state. It's just cool. It's a cool piece of film history, which is why I thought it was really worth actually buying and having a copy of it physically on hand, because it's not the same as seeing a sketch online or on Pinterest or Twitter or wherever versus seeing it printed out on paper and you can feel like it's right there in front of you, like you just have a piece of paper from that artist's desk that you're getting to enjoy, firsthand right in front of you. It's really cool. Next up is this 50 years of Sports Illustrated, and yes, it is a book of hot women in bikinis, but there really is some world-class photography and lighting throughout this book, and it's also kind of interesting to me because it's a case study in seeing what was considered the standard of beauty for each era. And yes, I understand that these standards were very toxic, and that's part of what I think is fascinating, is you look at them and think, okay, what in society or what in popular culture shifted that meant for this decade, this was the model-esque look that was considered perfection, that was considered the way that someone should look if they wanted to be perfect or to be up to the kind of current standards set by places like Hollywood and the modeling industry. And you can really see these transition points through the different decades as public opinion shifted to different types of beauty and how those were established, oftentimes through things like photography, what was being published, what was visually being seen on the covers of magazines, in advertising, and how that affected the public perception of what beauty meant, because of course that is a term that varies with every single generation. It's a term that varies in every single era, in different cultures, in different regions of the world. So it's a cool case study to kind of be able to analyze it as more than just a book of hot, sexy photographs, but also kind of a living history that continues on to this day, because those things are always changing. The dynamics of what beauty is considered to be are always shifting, and I think in general, society is trying to be less toxic about it, but we're also humans, and I think we can often be on a gut instinct very judgmental, and I don't know if we can ever fully erase that. I think there is an animal instinct to what humans think are attractive or not attractive, and what we're trying to do is get out of that animal brain a little bit and be like, okay, we're human beings, and if we want to be like a higher life form on the planet, then we need to actually fucking act like it. But you know what? We're all still weirdos at the end of the day, and we like looking at hot people. I think nowadays the nice thing is there's more of a broad understanding that hot can mean a lot of different things, Hot, it does not have to be one settled standard for everyone, and that doesn't mean someone has a weird view of what beauty or attractiveness is. It just means they have their own preferences. So I do think we're getting better about that, not pretending like we need to act like there's a level playing field, like everyone looks the same and is the same amount of attractive and all that, but realizing that attractiveness is a perspective that we can all enjoy individually, and that can be done in a healthier, less toxic way, without needing to put someone else down who is not personally your personal type of attractive and not feel like we need to trash someone else for that. So I think as a culture, we're trying to move in that direction, even if every time I go on social media and it undoes any of that optimism that I previously had. But anyway, that's a different rant for a different discussion or video, I think. Now, you've probably been waiting patiently now for the technical details. What do I use to record and make all of the actual content creating happen? So let's get into that. So this is my microphone setup, and as you can see, I use a dual microphone layout with these foam cases around each one, which helps to minimize sound reflecting off the walls and bouncing around in unflattering ways. It also has this front mesh, which helps to reduce plosives, which is a puff of air that happens with certain words. Now, the advantage of having this dual layout is that it allows me to make stereo recordings so I can organically give the sense that my voice is moving around in what sounds like a three-dimensional space. And I know some people might ask, why not get a microphone like the 3DO, which is a microphone built specifically for that kind of moving sound experience? And it's for two main reasons. The first one is that those microphones are very, very expensive. I think too expensive for what they are. And second is that I actually don't think they sound very good, which might be an unpopular opinion, especially in the ASMR community. But the problem is they use these very, very small microphone capsules that don't, in my opinion, do a good job replicating the actual human ear hearing experience. Because, yes, our ear canals are very small, but we don't hear in a small, tinny kind of way. We hear a full spectrum of sound because our ears are very advanced. And the irony is that a microphone like this one here that I'm using is called a dynamic microphone, and it is able to capture a much wider frequency of sound and usually capture a range of like low to mid-range to high sounds with a bit more subtlety and nuance than a lot of these 3DO microphones do, in my opinion, because I think they sound a little bit thin with certain human voices, and I found that it was a better choice to do an arrangement with 2 larger microphones that would give me the same effect, but also actually do it quite a bit cheaper, and I can kind of walk you through what that would look like. So for example, rather than spend $2,000 on a 3DO setup, I use a pair of Audio-Technica 2035 microphones, which these only cost $150 brand new, and even less if you find a good quality used one, which, in microphone terms that's pretty low. That's pretty budget priced while still getting very good results. But I feel like a lot of people get obsessed with finding the most expensive microphone, even though that doesn't guarantee you're going to get better sound, especially if you're not practicing how to sound mix your audio. I got hungry. I'm not used to being on camera this much, like directly, so usually you don't see it, but when I'm doing gaming videos and I haven't had a face cam, a lot of times I have snacks, and when the cutscenes are happening, I mute my audio so I can chow down on a bunch of snacks. So, I might still do that. If you ever see the camera just go black or whatever, it's probably because I'm having snack time during a long cutscene during a game. Can I eat with the mask on? Hold on here. Test this on camera. Can I like it's a secret? Do it. Kind of worked. There it is. What you've been missing out on, not being able to see the full picture, all the sexiness behind the scenes. Not going to see me have my pretzels. Now, if you're a content creator or you are thinking about becoming a content creator, one of the best pieces of advice that I can give you is to buy used gear. Like, legitimately, I have had so much good fortune with finding used items for a fraction of their intended cost that have allowed me to do upgrades and be able to get better quality equipment earlier in my creative career while not spending a ton of money out of pocket. So now the caveat to that is make sure you're buying from somewhere reputable, preferably somewhere that has some kind of return policy, just so that way if the item you receive is not in the same condition as what it said on the listing, then you can complain about it and get a refund. In my experience though, like literally 95% of the time, they're in great shape. Most of the time, it's just other artists or content creators, filmmakers, whatever, who are selling their old gear because they upgraded. Like that's kind of, it's people like myself who have equipment that I just don't need anymore. But when I was using it, I was taking super good care of it. So a lot of times there are people like myself who you're buying from where the quality is still going to be almost brand new. I've just had it for a while, something I've had in my office, an old camera or a lens or something that I just don't need anymore. So, which can be a huge benefit to you starting out to start looking more professional early on in your creative work without it breaking the bank. And you know what, talking about this kind of makes me want to go on a brief tangent because I see this a lot in various creative communities where they say, hey, gear doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what kind of gear you're using, what matters is your creativity. And I understand the sentiment, like what they're trying to say is that what matters the most is your creativity, which is true. That's undeniably the case. But, the idea that gear is irrelevant, not really. And that does not mean you need the most expensive gear to make good work, not in the slightest. But the idea that the gear is irrelevant, I think is silly, and it's almost always from unprofessional people who I see saying that. So let me give you an example. So let's say you're a voice actor starting out and you're like, okay, I need a microphone to start with. Let me go to Google and type in budget microphone for starting voice actor, something like that, beginner's microphone. One of the first ones you'll probably see in the search results is called the Blue Yeti. It's a super popular mic for people online. You just plug it into the USB port on your computer and it just goes from there. And that's really cool. It's good plug and play, super easy to use kind of equipment. The problem is it's kind of a shitty microphone. And to be clear, that I'm not saying that to trash anyone who uses it. I'm saying there's better gear in a similar price point. So the Blue Yeti at present costs you around, I think it's about $80 to buy one right now. And they're not very clear for a human voice. They have a lot of noise, which is that crackle and kind of that underlying hiss you hear on a bad microphone. It's called a noise floor, which is how big the gap is between the noisy hissing sound on your microphone and how loud and clear your voice is. Now, a really good microphone, that's a huge gap. The noise floor is really, really low, and there's a big separation between that and your voice. So the noise is pushed way down naturally. So a lot of cheaper microphones, they're not very sensitive. So that noise floor, that hissing and that distortion is really high, and your voice is just a little bit above it. So it's fucking with your voice right out the gate as soon as you record. Now, on the flip side, there is a microphone called the Elgato Wave 3. It is also a USB microphone. It just plugs straight into your computer. But the main difference is that it has a bunch of built-in features like noise reduction. It has a limiter and compressor, which just means when you're talking really loud, the limiter and compressor work to bring those high levels and the high intensity of your voice down so it doesn't distort and start to clip at the top. And when you talk quiet, it tries to boost those a little bit to be able to bring the volume up to even out the intensity of sort of the spectrum of volume of your voice while you're talking. It's really helpful. And if you're not super technically savvy, something like that can really start you off with a better quality sound file without you needing to do a whole lot of work touching it up and adjusting it later. Now, that microphone is more expensive. It's about $130. So we're talking about like a $50 gap between the Blue Yeti and the Wave 3. So it's not the cheapest option, but the idea of like, if you're already going to be doling out, $80 for a microphone, and you could save, 50 or 60 more and put it aside to get something far better to start with, I feel like that's worth the wait and the time. And then also that microphone that's better quality will last you longer. Now, if you're in a professional kind of setting or you're looking to work in a more professional environment, you will need what's called an XLR microphone. Now, it's a microphone like the one I'm recording on right now. It just means it uses XLR cables, which help to transmit the high quality uncompressed signal from the microphone into whatever recording system you have. So there's a little bit more of a technical curve to it. It's not super difficult, but it does mean you have to actually invest a little more in the surrounding equipment and not just the microphone itself. And most likely you hear that and you're probably thinking like, oh, that sounds like way more expensive, right? Like if I'm needing a professional microphone that needs things attached to it to even work, that's probably gonna really bump up the cost, but not necessarily. And here, let me break down for you exactly how it doesn't necessarily have to be that much more expensive, even if you are trying to get a professional XLR microphone setup like one I'm using right now. So like I said before, I'm using the Audio-Technica 2035. Now, this microphone has sort of a little brother microphone that keeps most of the same features called the Audio-Technica 2020. It's almost the exact same looking as the one I'm using right now. It's a very, very solid starter microphone, and it goes for about $100. And that's $100 brand new. If you were to find one that was used, might be able to knock it down to like $90, $80, maybe even less if you find one you're buying from someone personally, like if you're in like a metropolitan area where someone might be getting rid of one, something like that. Even somewhere like eBay, you might be able to find like an old sound engineer or someone who has one lying around and they're selling it and they just don't need it anymore, and you get it for a good price. But anyway, the AT2020, let's say it's full price. It's $100. All right, so what do you need after that? In order to be able to make the microphone work, the main thing you need is an XLR cable. These are cheap, literally only a few bucks, maybe $10 at the most to get a professional one, usually less than that. That's not a big cost. But more importantly, you need an audio interface, and that is the equipment that takes the signal from the microphone through the cable and converts it into audio that you can record. It converts it into a signal that can be read by your computer or read by other software, things like that. That's what makes the raw, real recording that's coming through here and the reverberations into a usable file. Now, for example, I've got an interface for my desktop here called the Scarlett, the 2i2 over here. I don't use that for recording anymore. That one takes the audio from my computer and maps it out onto my speakers, which I'll chat about in a little bit. But you need something like that to be able to receive the signal. But if you're just one person with one microphone and you don't need a bunch of extra features, you don't need a bunch of inputs, you only need one slot to be able to put your one microphone into to be able to record your voice, they make interfaces like this one for literally like $50. And that's pretty much all you need to get started. You need a microphone, you need an interface, and you need a cable to connect the two of them, and you're kind of off to the races. So those two items together equal about $150, which means that Compared to buying a Blue Yeti microphone, you're spending an extra, maybe 60 or 70 bucks, which is not an insubstantial amount of money. But the thing is, you would be starting off with a much, much higher quality baseline that you could use for years in the future without needing to worry about upgrading, because it would be good enough for professional recording work. So it's just something to think about, where expensive does not necessarily equal quality, but also cheaper and budget friendly does not mean you're getting a good value or a good deal. I mean, frankly, some of those kind of microphones are so bad that you'd be better off getting a small microphone that connects to your phone for like 20 bucks and recording on that for a while and just using your phone as a recorder. Like, that's an option too. So once again, it's not about needing the most expensive gear. It's about doing your research so you know that what you're buying is actually going to suit your creative needs effectively and is actually going to last you the long haul. So that way down the road, you're not needing to stress over it because you've got a good foundation to begin with, and that's going to carry you through a lot of your creative work going forward. And of course, if there are questions you have about that, if you're thinking about wanting to start creating content or thinking about what to get for yourself, feel free to leave them as a comment. I could always do a follow-up video where I knock out some questions from you guys to help clarify maybe some questions you have about content creating or concerns you have that can maybe help, clarify for you if you're wanting to do something like this, but you're a little worried about it and you don't know where to start, or you need to be pointed in the right direction. Because I always want to make myself available within reason to be able to help as many people as I can with the time that I have. But anyway, that's enough of me going on a tangent. Let's get back to the office tour. And mentioning audio interfaces, I should show you what I record with, which is the Zoom F3 field recorder, which is a 32-bit audio recording system. And bit depth basically refers to the amount of audio dynamic range that your recorder can handle, meaning the loudest that it can handle and the quietest that it can handle. And there's a moving range you have to stay within, otherwise you're going to peak the microphone and the audio is going to kind of blow out, and you're not going to be able to, it's going to distort, you're not going to be able to hear anything, it's just going to be completely cut off, or your audio is going to end up too quiet and it's going to be full of noise and static and crackling because you weren't in the sweet spot of that range of audio frequency that your recorder is able to handle. So higher bit depth means it can handle a bigger spectrum of audio volume without either side of it distorting or getting too noisy. And the typical kind of standard bit depth is 24-bit. That's what you see a lot in most recording environments. But there's a new technology called 32-bit audio, and the cool thing about that is you basically cannot distort the recorder. And what this means is it has a spectrum of audio so wide that it's almost impossible to be able to make it distort, meaning you could be like literally, you could be this quiet right here and you can hear that it's still not noisy, it's not crackling or anything, it's still very clear. And then you can get really loud and intense and I can yell into the same microphone and it's still not going to distort, which is really, really fucking cool. Now, that admittedly is overkill for most of what I'm doing, and most people will not need this. The main thing for me is that I'm a one-man operation, so I can't be monitoring my audio levels all the time, especially if I'm doing something like a commentary video or a gaming video where I'm not looking at the recorder the whole time. I'm just looking at the screen and chatting. And what I don't want to happen is for me to be focused and so in the middle of doing that, and God forbid I get too loud, and then all of a sudden the audio is ruined for the whole section of that video or that whole moment that I had, because that would really suck to lose it. So it's very comforting for me as a content creator to be able to just get the recording going, let it do its thing, and know that I can be as loud or as quiet as I want. And as long as your microphone is in the right spot, it's in a nice position to be able to clearly hear your voice coming in, you're good to go. You really have nothing to worry about. There's nothing for it to distort. And as long as your SD card you're using is fine and your power supply is good, you're all set. You're golden. I've never had an issue with it. And anytime I have, it's been user error. Now, if I'm live streaming though, I need a different kind of solution to be able to manage my voice live, and that requires a different kind of tool. Specifically, this Elgato Wave XLR, which takes the signal from an XLR microphone like this and converts it to be able to work as a USB microphone. So you get the benefits of having a professional studio microphone, with the ease of use of a USB microphone, basically. And it comes with some built-in features similar to their microphone, where it has a compressor and a limiter built in to be able to make sure your audio is not distorting even when you are live recording your voice for whatever stream or software you might be using. Now, I do have a pair of studio monitors also at my desk here. These are a pair of PreSonus Aris speakers, and together they cost about $100. Yet the sound quality for that price is honestly pretty great. And it's nice having them here because that way then I can, take my headphones off and check how my audio projects sound, not just on headphones, but also on speakers, because you have to factor that in when you're creating things, because people won't just listen to it in one specific environment. They won't just listen to it on their phone speaker or on a set of desktop speakers like this, or always on their headphones. Like, ideally, what I sound mix for is for people on headphones, but I know that's not always going to be the case. So I want to test it out on different kind of sound systems just to make sure, hopefully, that what I'm doing kind of in the sound mix makes sense across various formats. And mentioning headphones, let's take a second to talk about what I use, because that's one of the most important things in any sound kit is what headphones you have to make sure you're getting the clearest, purest kind of version of the audio you're listening to make sure you can sound mix and fine tune it accurately and correctly. Now, people can get really crazy about headphones on one side telling you need this $600 pair of headphones if you really want to know what sounds good. Or on the flip side, people saying, it doesn't matter, just use whatever you have, it makes no difference. The reality is, it does make a difference, but you don't need to be spending an ungodly amount of money to be able to get a nice clear sound profile out of your headphones. Which is why I use the Sony MDR 7506s, which are professional because they have a sticker that says so. So, checkmate, atheists. But for real, these have been a standard professional quality headphone for like over 30 years for a good reason. They're just great all the way around. These headphones are going to run you about $80 to $100, but they have an extremely clear, very untampered kind of sound profile to them. And what I mean by untampered is many types of headphones, especially ones that are branded, popular, celebrity endorsed kind of headphones, will have features like mega boosted bass and ultra high clarity. And what they're doing actually is they're not making anything actually sound directly better. They're taking the raw original intended audio and they're boosting sections. Like, they'll take the bass and they'll boost it really high, or the treble at the top, and push it way up to make it sound clearer. But the problem is that's all fucking with the sound. So what you're hearing is no longer accurate to what it was meant to sound like. The problem with that is then you send that audio to someone else with a different pair of headphones, it sounds 100% different to them. So you want a neutral sounding headphone that's very clear, very unadorned, and just tells you exactly what that shit sounds like without anything else being adjusted onto it. And that's how you know when you've got a really good final sound mix, because then you go, okay, it sounds ultra clear to me. So now I know most other headphones, even if they are changing the sound a little bit, the original version of it is correct, and most other things will still sound fine. And when I say these headphones are neutral sounding, that doesn't mean they sound boring. Like, the first time I got these, I started listening to music, and the amount of clarity and fine detail I was noticing in songs was just fucking crazy. It was so interesting to hear instrumentation and vocal layerings, stuff that I hadn't really even noticed before coming through in a song, because all of a sudden it wasn't having all this extra shit added on top of it, distorting the way it actually was meant to sound. It's really cool. And if you're a big audio fan, then getting a good professional grade pair of headphones can really make a world of difference to what you're listening to. Now, for my gaming setup, I use this controller from a company called 8-Bit Do, which I really, really like. Since I grew up playing PlayStation games, using a mouse and keyboard feels a little bit unnatural for me, so mostly I'm using this thing for most of the games that I'm playing, and so far it works just fine. Now, when I'm recording sound effects, I am usually using this Zoom H2N microphone, which is very small and unobtrusive, but it's cool because it actually contains multiple microphones that allow it to record 360 audio, so we can hear literally all around it. Now, I don't generally use this for recording single voices because I find that it's a little bit thin for vocals, but it's great for environments. Like, I've taken it to the beach, or, you can take it to like public ambient kind of crowded places and just record a little bit. And the way you can really get this wraparound 360 sound of all the people and noises and different activities going on, moving all around you is so cool. And it's really, really effective at creating a realistic soundscape without needing to bother people and being able to smuggle it in kind of wherever you are. On the PC side of things is this bad boy that I built from scratch, though it's nothing too crazy in here. There's 64 gigabytes of RAM, some old i7 CPU. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really play games that are super CPU heavy, so I have not had a reason to upgrade it. So that's like by far the oldest, most outdated part of my PC setup, but it's still working fine, so I don't know. At some point I'll upgrade it, but for now, it's kind of a non-issue. And here at the heart and soul of the PC is my RTX 4070 Super, which was honestly purchased as a way to speed up my workflow, because the editing and rendering and the time it would take to export so many projects on a consistent weekly basis was eating up a lot of time. Like, it was eating up time that I could have been recording more stuff or editing more projects, but I was just waiting for files to be ready to upload, exporting for 2 or 3 hours at a time. So boosting this to a more powerful system was honestly one of the better choices that I've made, I think, and well worth the cost investment I made a while back to bring this system more up to what it needed to be for the amount of stuff that I was trying to make back then and want to keep making in the future. And not to mention, it plays games way smoother now and is a much more powerful system. I mean, as you guys know, I'm not someone who cares that much about playing the most cutting edge, high fidelity, high graphics games. I've mentioned many times that I'm more interested in games that are focused on the lighting design and environment and the layout of the game. So, games that are focused on the artistic styling rather than just being ultra high resolution. Like Kena Bridge of Spirits is a perfect example of that. It's not the most graphically demanding game, but it's gorgeous looking and you can play it on most systems even that are kind of medium specs as far as the amount of power that they have, and you're still going to have a great experience. And that's kind of what I prefer in the games that I choose for myself to play. Over here is my monitor for my new Facecam setup, which brings me to the most exciting addition to my office, which you've been enjoying throughout this video, which is this right here, the fact that you guys can see me. And if you're wondering what camera I'm shooting on, this is being recorded on the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K, which is a gorgeous camera, even though it is definitely overkill for this particular scenario. All the shots around my office were filmed with the Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, which is like the big brother to the 4K camera that is the Facecam here. Now, the Pocket 4K is overkill for this job, especially because it's not even technically the right tool for this. It does not have continuous autofocus. It has a button I can push and then it'll focus, but it doesn't do it all the time. But that's kind of okay because I'm mostly staying kind of at this distance for most of the time I'd be recording anything anyway, so not that big a deal. But the image out of it is gorgeous. I love the colors that come out of these cameras, specifically this company Blackmagic that focuses on cinema cameras, and specifically budget friendly is a relative term, but cinema cameras are very expensive, unsurprisingly. But Blackmagic is focused on making cameras that are slightly more manageable for low budget filmmakers while still having a ton of professional features and an image that looks as good as many comparable, far more expensive cameras. In fact, they recently released a new camera, and not to get so nerdy for a second, but they have a 17K resolution camera, and quality of a camera is not just about high resolution, it also has to have good features to go along with it. But 17K is crazy. If you're thinking 4K, HD is down here, and 4K is here, and 17K is we're talking giant IMAX level images. I mean, it's 140 megapixels in every single frame of the videos it takes, which is crazy. So that's a dream camera of mine, not just because of the technical specs, but because I think it would be really cool to shoot a small indie project and try to film it in a really immersive, really just amazingly kind of, a visceral kind of way, if that makes sense. And film it with the highest quality equipment like that, and then project it on a fucking IMAX screen. That's my personal dream. So like hopefully someday I would love to get my hands on a camera like that and be able to have enough resources to be able to make some short films and projects and things that I've been wanting to make for a while without needing to stress about having like a bunch of producers overweighing their opinion on it in a bad way. You know, I'd want to be able to work with like a relatively small team to make really cool stuff. And then what I'd love to do that they used to do in the old days is they used to do a thing called a movie roadshow. And the idea was basically to promote your movie, you would tour it around a bunch of theaters and you would make a big to-do. You'd have costumes and cast members. And it was like a series of film premieres, basically. But it was to get people excited, and people from that community or city or town would show up and get to see it before the wide release for the film. And I think that's such a good idea. I think it's such a cool thing. Like if you have like an indie film to do like a dozen or 24 cities and let supporters come enjoy the film and have a kind of a behind the scenes look at the production and just give them a chance to access the film in an exclusive way that builds up an excitement for it before a wide release. So I don't know, it's not something that's really ever done anymore. Because of course there's big premieres, but those are usually like it's premiering in America and then it's premiering internationally. And that's not the same as touring your film around and getting to actually engage with the communities in a lot of different areas of the country. So anyway, it's stuff like that I'm like, I would love to have the kind of resources down the road, you know, in my middle years, as it were, to be able to work on things like that and then do kind of more unique ways of presenting it that I think are kind of a missed opportunity and I think would actually be received very, very well. Because then, like, wherever I'm going, you guys could be there. You know what I mean? Like, I could be doing different tour stops with a film that I've made or something, or a series of short films maybe even. And it could be like a tour where you guys could come be in the audience and we could do Q&As, you know, and I could like bring costumes and stuff with to show you guys. And I just think that would be cool. You know what I mean? I think that'd be such a unique way. And also a sense of being able to build a community so you're not all just watching it online like everything I make here. You know, you'd be able to experience it together and engage with me directly and also with one another. And I think that would be so cool, so special, you know what I mean? So just ideas that I have, you know, future me hopefully will be able to bring them to fruition because it's a lot of stuff I'd like to do. And I think you guys would enjoy it too. And I think you guys would support it if I did. So, you know, let me know. If I toured a movie around, would you guys be helping me out by filling up the movie theater, you know, to make sure that I didn't show up there and it was completely fucking empty? Because then I just cancel that shit. I'd be like, it's over. One person showed up. I'm deleting everything. I can't do it, all right? But I don't think that would happen. I think a bunch of you would be there. And I think it would be a lot of fun, to be honest. Oh yeah, and I almost forgot that I got new lighting, which I'm very excited about. You can't quite see it up on the camera here, but I'll put my B-roll shots of it in. But over here, it's a softbox lighting diffuser with this front piece that's called an egg crate. And it basically just helps to make it so the direction of the light doesn't spill all over the background, like it doesn't fly back here. The light just kind of locks in on this little slice right here. That way then, if I want to style the background more and do some different things, I can make that work. Oh, god damn it. I just realized I took a break because I needed to swap out memory cards to record the last half of this video. And I turned off my background light. Hold on, I fucked up the continuity, everyone. God damn it, hold on. There you go, there's the aesthetic lighting back, but I screwed it up and now it doesn't look seamless. And you guys know I've been taking breaks and having snacks, and you know that I'm not just so good at this that I was able to get it all in one take, because I didn't. It's mostly in one take, it's mostly just me blabbering, but there's been a few times where I get tongue-tied, so I'm like, all right, let me say that again without fucking it up quite so badly, so I'm not just muttering for however long this video ends up being. Anyway, but the new lighting is nice, and I really like it, especially because this light is on a boom arm, so I can swing it anywhere around my desk, basically. I can maneuver it over there and extend it out, so if I want to, like, do stuff over at the empty area of my desk over here and, like, I don't know, like, build a puzzle or something, or show you guys a magazine, or I don't fucking know. Like, there's just more I can do now at my desk without needing to stress about setting up a ton of different equipment over and over and over and then needing to tear it down every time I want to make something. And some of you might be wondering why I went with this kind of a setup and not like a like a flat LED panel, which is more common with content creators. And my problem with them is, despite what the manufacturers of those things might say, because they always say like those LED panels are naturally soft and you don't need diffusion and they're very flattering. They're not soft lighting, they're not, because there needs to be a gap between the light itself and what you're using to diffuse it. And if you don't know the term, diffusing light just means softening it. So for example, if you have like a light source here that's shining a spotlight and you put like a white sheet or something in front of it, that's diffusion. It spreads out the light and makes it a little bit more pleasing and gentle on the eyes. So this right here has diffusion built into it that bounces the light around and scatters it so that way it falls a little bit more gently on the subject. But anyway, that's kind of the advantage of why this is set up the way it is. And I just think it looks more interesting than that flat LED panel kind of light. And there's nothing wrong with having an LED panel like that at all. Like, it's not a bad choice, especially because most content creators, all they want is to make sure that their audience can see their face clearly. But for me, I was like, I want to do something slightly more interesting than that. Something that is like at least a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more of a lighting style that matches kind of my taste. So that's why I have a kind of like the overhanging light here with the color contrast behind, because it just looked cooler. That's really all it comes down to. I thought it looked cooler, and that's really, it's based on vibes. Vibes alone are the only reason why I decided to set it up the way that I did. But I'm very happy with it. I think it's going to be really good going forward. And, you know, that way I don't have to stress about rigging up a light over here every time I want to film something. I can just walk in, switch on this camera, and just go, which is going to make life so much fucking easier to be able to make things, let me tell you. So I'm very excited about that. Now, with all this said, though, I want to be clear that don't expect me to have a face cam for everything I make going forward. Mostly because there are going to be days, to be totally honest with you, where I'm just not feeling up to it. Like, it's just as simple as that, to be so straight up with you. There's going to be days I don't feel up to being on camera. I don't feel up to being perceived, you know. I just want to roll in here in my Adam Sandler kind of looking outfit and just record and not worry about it at all. So it'll take me a little time to get used to it. But I do think that as I get more comfortable with this camera being set up here and chatting straight to you guys, you know, I think once I'm used to it, I'll be doing it pretty often, and I can use it for different kinds of videos than, you know, what I typically make. Like, in addition to what I make is what I should say, because I'm not planning to change the audio projects that I make. But in between, it's fun because I can make, like, I was thinking of making some audio tutorials where I, like, break down some of my audios and show you my timeline so you can see how I sound mix them, how I chose the music, how I layer everything to get certain effects, and how to get, like, the kind of feel of the soundscape for certain projects. And I can be on camera while I'm doing it now, so expect some stuff like that to start trickling in addition to me posting my back catalog of gaming content that was filmed prior to this being set up. So I'm going to get all of my non-facecam videos edited and posted, and then you'll start seeing some of the ones with me on camera mixed in here and there, you know? So just to say, you know, I want to set expectations at a reasonable level that this will be here sometimes, but not all the time. But hopefully you enjoy it on the times where I choose to do it. And you can kind of tell me, like, did you like this? Was it more fun getting to walk through my office with me actually on camera chatting to you? Hopefully it was, because, I mean, if I set up all this and you hate it, then I don't know what I do with myself. But I don't think that's the case. Something tells me that you guys are going to have a lot of fun with this, and I think you guys will enjoy getting to see me on camera a little bit more often in my future projects. So that's it, basically. That's my office. That's my stuff. If there's anything that I forgot, anything you'd want me to go into more detail about, please comment below. I'd love to do more of these. I'd love to even just do some videos where I'm just casually reading your comments and being able to chat with you for a bit. So if you have stuff you want me to talk about on camera, feel free to comment it under this video, and maybe I'll use it for a video in the future. But anyway, thanks for being here. Thank you for all your support. Thank you for being the reason that making the effort to do all of these things does feel so worth it, because I'm not doing it with the hopes that all of this is worth it. I know it is, because I do all of this to share with an existing audience, which is all of you that have already showed me so much support over the years. So getting to make adjustments like this and improve the content that I'm making is always an exciting thing, because I'm not sharing it to a vacuum. I'm not sharing it to a void of nobody. I'm sharing it with all of you who have already been so awesome, and I know that I can share it and be excited to see what you guys think about it, and you guys, getting to have fun along with me and see kind of over the course of my content creating journey how things progress, For those of you who can look back on when I started out and how uncertain I was, and now I'm here doing something that I never would have thought I would have tried at the beginning. And it feels good. It feels fun to do. And I think you're going to have a lot of fun in the future with everything I have planned. So thanks for being here. Stay tuned for lots more, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.